I will be looking forward to your report later on in the evening. But now we want to switch gears and have that conversation now. Are you a landlord? How much money do you lose by the end of the year? Now, Kyoto Pay recently released a report showing that about 30% of money is lost. This is revenue that landlords should have been collecting. Now, this afternoon, I'm joined by Paul Masharia in studio. He's the CEO of Kyoto Pay. Paul, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
All right, first things first.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So first things first, help us understand, while you were doing this report, what were the other findings that you did and how long did you take to do this report?
Okay, thank you. So basically what happened is that, so if I explain a bit about Kyoto Pay, we're basically an end-to-end platform for real estate. We focus on automation for business flows. By business flows, I mean everything that happens in property management, all the way from how you get tenants, how you screen them, how you create traces, how you bill the tenants, how you collect the payments, and even how you manage the other processes like either paying bills and so forth. So what happened is that we started about in late September, and we've been seeing a trend from most of our clients. This is what kind of drove us towards when desiring to do this research. So what happened is that we discovered that using when most of our clients started using the system, they were beginning to get an improvement in terms of their collection, in terms of the time it takes for tenants to pay their money. And that is what motivated us to enter into this field of doing this research.
Yeah.
So ideally, we focus on two areas. We focus on the payment aspect, and then we focus on the entire efficiency for the management as a process. And what we discovered is that about 18% was getting lost in between the billing and the collection for payments. Either the collections would be made late, or even people would pay lesser than what was billed. And another like 13% would result from the inefficiencies around maintenance, around follow-up, around how tenants actually get the spaces within the properties. Yeah, and that's what came about the research that we did.
All right, when you talk about money not being collected, I'm sure so many tenants will say, but I've been paying my rent. How was my money not collected? How did it get lost?
Okay, so ideally how that money gets lost, it happens in two ways. So these are, one, this is misinformation. For instance, what happens is that if as a tenant, I get my bill. For instance, if I'm supposed to get my bill on 1st of, let's say, for argument's sake, 1st of July, and then I get it on 5th, that means I'm unable to plan properly for that payment for the rent. The other reason is if I am given a channel that is uncomfortable for me to make. For instance, a landlord requires for me to go do a bank deposit. In most cases, because it's an inconvenience for me, I may end up not paying that money in good time. And what will happen, because we have competing financial needs, I may end up actually not making that payment in time. So what happens is that over time, there's an accumulation of bills, unpaid rental payments over periods of time.
All right, and again, when you talk about up to 30%, that is quite a huge amount. So I would really want to understand how much are we losing from the economy? We look at in terms of quantifying the 30%.
So look at, for you to be able to appreciate what the effect of that is, you must look at real estate as a contribution to GDP. At the moment, you're contributing far above 7% as a driving force towards the GDP. So ideally, real estate becomes a very significant contributor to the growth of the economy. So what happens is that when the investors go out there, they invest in development of new properties, especially the ones that are intended for property being let out to tenants. What happens is that because of that returns being reduced for the investor, there's a ripple effect, both in terms of additional new developments taking place. As a result of, again, these investors are not able to recover the investment in good time. That means they might struggle to pay, whether they are financial or banking loans that have been extended to them. They might be unable to invest into new properties. So that means in the long run, whether a tenant as myself, my affordability, being able to afford that space might be a challenge. Eventually, that means fewer people are able to get or rather afford houses where they can rent comfortably.
Because what I'm looking at is maybe in a figure. So are you telling me if I'm supposed to receive 100,000 as a landlord, there's a likelihood that I'm going to lose 30,000 in between? And also for those for those landlords who then have decided, but I have a caretaker, I have an agency to do the collection for me?
So this is what happens. I must clarify that we ideally complement the landlords, complement the property managers, but we also work with self-managing property landlords. Yes. And in this case, what it means is that for one of the key focus of whether it's a property manager or even it's a property owner, one of the things they want to do is that they want to drive occupancy. Because if I'm operating at 60% occupancy, that means my earning at the end of the day, whether I'm charging within the market rate or even above or even below, are going to be lesser. So what happens is that if you solely rely on a caretaker might not be able to drive business on your property. The other case is there are so many other benefits of automation that you may not be able to enjoy. For instance, like what some of the things that you've done is being able to integrate with the listing site. So that means that you're able to get a pipeline of people or tenants who are looking for vacancy. And these are tenants who have picked your property as a preference. The other issue that happens is that, for instance, if you're relying on, let's say, solely on a caretaker to do collection for you. Yeah. So we have instances where caretakers collide with tenants not to pay rent in good time. And then you're not able to gauge the quality of service that is being offered at your property. So ideally what happens, like for us, what you're doing is that you're able now to mediate this relationship between the tenant and the property manager, or the property owner in that case, where they're managing, and make sure that both the quality of service that is given to the tenant is guaranteed, as long as they're able to keep tabs with everything that is happening within the property. So whether it's the issues to do with maintenance, whether it's issues to do with quick resolving of disputes and so forth, so it becomes much easier in the long run, both from a financial aspect, but even from a business process focus.
Because again, the question that I'm sure a lot of our landlords and tenants are going, property owners and whoever is leasing those property, they're going to be looking at is, okay, we're talking about automation. How does it benefit me? Okay. As a property owner, how does automation benefit me? As a tenant, for instance, how convenient is this automation?
Okay. So if you look at the most common, and when you talk about automation, it's not solely restricted to management. Automation happens even in terms of selling and marketing. So first of all, if I'm exposing my property out there are particular benefits of automation. For instance, right now we have augmented reality, where people can be, all prospective tenants can be able to view the entire property, gauge its suitability to them as potential tenants. The other thing is, one of the other critical important is in terms of management of utility. By utilities, we are talking about water and power. For instance, one of the things that we've been doing is integrating with smart meters and for water and for power. Yeah. So what that means is that for the property owner, they're able to see or monitor how the utilities are getting utilized. That means you'll have lesser dispute between the tenants on cases to do with how much was charged for water, how much was charged for power. And that means that you're able again to manage and to budget in the wrong run, that the power that the tenants are likely to use is this particular number of units. And that is consistent over a period of time. So this benefit will reach out to the tenant, because the tenant will be more comfortable when they can see the performance, or rather the consumption, not just an entire month but altogether, but they can actually be able to get their consumption based on appliances they're using different days, in terms of which days have a higher consumption and a lower consumption and so forth. So that is on the utility management. But even beyond that, there are other areas where automation enables even the end user, who is the tenant, to be able to enjoy better service from the property owner or property manager. For instance, like what we've done within our KTP system is that you're able to allow for ease of logging in maintenance issues, requests, and any other issue that might arise in the course of the tenant living in that premises. So that means the speed of this property owner being able to respond to the issue of the tenant becomes much faster. So the complaints do not lag for a long period of time before they're actually resolved.
Yeah.
So looking at entirely automation, both on the management, the ownership, on the sales and marketing, it is intended to have benefit both for the end user who is the tenant as well as the property owner or the property manager.
All right, Paul, before I let you go, there's the question of the safety of this data. And of course, for the property owner, there's a lot of information that is likely to be put out there. So how safe is that data?
Okay. Looking at data, we must appreciate that data itself, it's not a bad thing. Data is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Because today, if you're able to leverage with all the data that you're getting in real estate, that means you'd have fewer houses that are less occupied or do not have tenants. Ideally, it would mean that you're able to allocate resources optimally. For instance, develop properties within locations that people want to live there. And then the other thing with data is that we must appreciate that if you're able to leverage on data properly, that means that we can increase the speed of the execution as far as the management is concerned. But however, the risk that data possesses is in terms of how it is utilized. And there's a framework within even the government for the data handlers, that you have to either have a data handling certificate or even a data processing certificate. So what you've done as Kyoto is just being able to align with both the Kenyan standard in terms of how the data is handled, as long as the global standards, because they are framework that guides either software companies or even other non-software companies on how to properly handle whether to do with tenants' data over time and protect it and ensure that they're not only benefiting on it, but they're actually benefiting, safeguarding the information of the people at the line.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. And of course, we will be hoping that this 30% that is normally lost will no longer be lost. We want to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will be having that conversation around financial inclusion. Stay with us.